So hello fellow Earthlings, this is Earthling 6455463728 and I wanted today to talk about billionaire Chamath Palihapitiya. That's a kind of a difficult last name, so I guess I'll just keep calling him Chamath. Basically, he is the founder of Social Capital. I believe is it a hedge fund you would call it? He was a founding team member, I think, of Facebook, of a couple other well-known, that I knew, I can't remember right now, companies that did very well. And he has this hedge fund now that is called Social Capital as a result of becoming a billionaire, and he decided to go his own way and not to have too many other partners involved in the business who would steer him in a way other than his conscience wanted to lead him. And the nice thing about him is that I would call him, in my words, like a boring Elon Musk. The way that normal hedge funds are just really about the money, he is really about the money, definitely, but he's about the things that can confer benefits to humanity and can make a lot of money, except that there are things that take a long time to make that money. So, for example, he's working on diabetes right now, and as in to find a way to manage it, and the name says it all, really. Social capital. It's about trying to invest in these things that can do well socially and for society. So it's really nice to see something like that, and especially from somebody who is a billionaire. And my friends and I were talking about him, and I figured I would look up a lot of YouTube videos where he was talking, and he was talking at Stanford once, I think, and he mentioned, they were telling him that they'd heard that he was a very big tipper. Like, for example, if you spend, like, let's say a couple $100 on a meal, he might leave a tip for $400, and he was known for that. And he said it made him feel good to be able to do something like that for someone, to change their whole day. And it wasn't as if, as he said it wasn't as if it was going to be reflected, like they were going to come and thank him for it, because they don't know what the tip is after they've left the table and taken it, whatever it is that you sign, whatever amount it is. So they just take it, and he doesn't really see the effect that it has, but he feels it. But when he was talking at Stanford, for example, he was saying that he had a very dysfunctional upbringing because he was poor. His family was on welfare. He's from Sri Lanka, and his family moved to Canada. And as he was saying, it was at a time when the Canadian government was trying to give jobs to black and brown kids, so that similar riots as what happened, I think, with Rodney King in America didn't happen. It's what he was saying. But he also highlighted how improbable his rise was. In that one instance, he was saying that he would get on the bus to go to the job that he was working at. Well, one thing he said was that he used to work at McDonald's in order to help make money for his family. And in the beginning, he was so embarrassed when people he knew would come in, until one day he was like, this is my life. And once he accepted that this is my life, he felt that things changed, and he didn't feel bad and embarrassed and nervous about having people that he knew come into the place where he worked. But yeah, as I was saying, he was talking about how unlikely it was that there was someone, a billionaire, who was working at one of the companies that he eventually got to work at. I think he did work at an investment bank, I think it was, for a while. And he was saying, though, that he used to take the bus to get to work. And one day, I guess one of the vice presidents who would see him at the bus stop, and then he also saw him at the office. So he would pick him up and, drive him to work or give him a ride to work. And he got to see the inner workings of how it was, how the guy at the top made the decisions that he did, why he made the decisions that he did, what was the rationale behind it. And I guess he, some of that stuff rubbed off on him, and it helped him to have the kind of mindset that he eventually had. He also talked about the fact that, and maybe in that video or another one, the idea that he really followed companies to see which one was the best one to invest in, and as far as he could tell, it was Amazon. So he sold all of his Facebook stock and put all of it into Amazon. And well, as of 2 years ago in another interview, he was saying that he was out. But obviously he's done really well. And someone was saying that, okay, in Wikipedia, you're said to be at $1.5 billion. And he's like, well, it's many multiples above that. He wasn't specific, but in another interview, someone was asking him, how did it feel to be a billionaire, and how did it feel to have all of this money? And coming from the background where he said, his parents, they craved money. I don't know that he would have liked the idea that he used that word, but they did, because they needed it to take care of him and themselves. And to realize that he was a billionaire, one of the first things he realized was that it didn't fix his problems, or rather it didn't fix all of his problems. He was still, and still is, he has, I guess, days where he battles with a feeling of where he's not sure about his own self-worth, and then he has other days where I guess he battles his power headiness, one might say, where he's might be slightly drunk with power. And his goal, he was saying, was to make something like a Berkshire Hathaway, to create a investment vehicle for people to buy into his company's shares and make money with him. And he was hoping that that would happen at some point, but he still has those periods where he's unsure of himself and he feels somewhat less than. And also, someone asked him in another interview, what do you do in order to make sure that you don't, I guess in my words, go to the dark side of the force and get drunk with power? And he was basically, I don't know. And I really, really appreciate the fact that he talked about the fact that he was poor, and he talked about his uncertainty with himself working at Burger King, and he talked about, many times he's spoken about the fact that he was lucky. And he said just repeatedly, anybody who tells you that they know what they're doing, they're lying. In order to become wealthy, he was very, very lucky, and he says that over and over in many instances, to be on the path that he was on. I was also listening to Sidney Poitier's life, and wow, I don't know if Chamath Palihapitiya, just wanted to see if I could say it again, if he had such a tenuous path to success as Sidney Poitier had. But wow, maybe I need to talk about Sidney Poitier at some point. But going back to Chamath, it's really nice to hear him talk, though. He really doesn't mind cursing too much, so I guess I have to be aware of who I send what to when I send one of these videos. But for everything great that I have to say about Chamath, I saw one video, I think it was on a channel called Pomp, and there's something that's called regression to the mean, and I think it has to do with our blind spots. And Chamath, obviously he knows what he's doing when it comes to money, and being able to see whether or not things are going well to make an alternate step or something like that. But one of the things that he was saying, well, some things he said about what we should be doing with respect to the coronavirus, some things made sense. As in, we need redundancy. We did not have a lot of redundancy in the system. He called it being inefficient. And I guess it is being inefficient until you need it, and then it's very efficient. In terms of the famous PPE that we hear so much now, in terms of just in society in general, in order to get jobs for people so that they are able to do better in society as a whole, coming out of this whole situation for the US and for the whole world. And he was saying, obviously, we made a mistake having all of this manufacturing in China and da 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 da. And I thought, I think you're making a mistake in terms of that. One of the reasons I think that we haven't had a world war in a while is because of how interconnected our countries are. Anytime anybody thinks these days of starting a war, they have to know, they would have to prepare long in advance, like what I presume Hitler would have had to do. You don't attack a country or a major country that has, a lot of your company's customers. That is just going to put bankrupt a lot of your corporations, a lot of your businesses. It's going to hurt them. Suppliers, that means you're not going to be able to make things. You're not going to be able to, you're going to disrupt your economy. And I think that interconnectedness is what is keeping things together right now. So I think that he's making a mistake when he basically wants to bring more stuff back into America and have more things done in America. I think we should have things done where it can be done most efficiently. I think there's a difference between redundancy and inefficiency. Yeah, there should be excess beds in hospitals in America at all times. That should be paid for. I think there are other ways. I mean, the US, for example, has lots of redundancy, but it just doesn't have it in the right place. It has lots and lots of military redundancy, and that is a lot of jobs. It's a lot of money in the economy and so on. But obviously wars, maybe because of that military redundancy, there aren't that many wars. But I think that it really does come down to the fact that we have these multinational corporations who dissuade any kind of military issues that might come up, because it will disrupt their supply chains, it will disrupt their customers and their money supply and their businesses. So I think that no, that's not a good idea, Chamath. But all in all, and he spoke so plainly about the fact that in many ways, because of the ways that he thinks, he is isolated, because I guess a lot of other people don't think in a similar way, because especially, let's say, with respect to business, a lot of businesses out there for the quick money, and they're not in wanting to invest in long haul ventures that can pay many multiples or orders of magnitude of multiples back, but they just take a long time to get going and to work. So because of that, if I'm saying it correctly, he's isolated and he has problems with his families and his friends with respect to him paying. I guess I don't know what the angle is, why they don't want him to leave a big check or a big tip. So he says that anytime he goes out with family and friends now, he's like, all right, let me just effing pay. So it was really nice to see where somebody came from, where they are, them admitting that he's like, my life sucks, but maybe not, on an everyday basis as much as yours, but it does. And it's nice. It's nice to have someone be real, and it's nice to have somebody curse, and it's nice to have someone admit to their own frailties, who is a billionaire. And I think it's awesome what his hedge fund is doing. I think it's awesome the way that he speaks. I think it's awesome that he is where he is today. And hopefully they can be, well, I don't really hope for other billionaires, because I think, as I would have mentioned in some other occasion, because of a regression to the mean, the smarter you are in one avenue, the dumber you are in so much else. Because you have, if in order to be an expert, you have to focus. And if you focus, it means everything else is your blind side. So I think that I have individuals who people look to, listen to, and have the power of millions of ordinary citizens. I think that's not a good idea, but it exists, and I think that we'll have to pay the piper for that at some point. Anyway guys, you can wish me luck, you can like or unlike, you can comment, subscribe, and or share, and of course you can do nothing. Peace.